Ladies and gentlemen, there have been 3 indictments in the Durham probe thus far. If you read each of the indictments, the factual background within each of the indictments shows that Trump was set up and framed. There's no doubt about that. A whole bunch of people, including intelligence officials, including government officials, and journalists, media, the Clinton campaign, the Democratic Party, within the factual background of these indictments, conspired alongside one another to set up and frame Trump. It's within the indictments, and these indictments, by the way, are very easy to prosecute. They're not like, there's really no defense for Michael Sussman or Igor Danchenko or Kevin Kleinsmith. Kevin Kleinsmith was a government official who had to plead guilty, okay? Because he did fabricate information to a FISA judge just to prolong investigations. Danchenko is the subsource for the Steele Dossier, one of the subsources. If you look at that indictment, just like you look at the Sussman indictment, you will see a very elaborate attempt at utilizing government officials, media, fabricated false information to set up and frame Trump. They would never allow Democrats, the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN and MSNBC would never allow a Steele Dossier to be utilized against anyone, president, exhumed body, or the Clinton campaign, or any Democrat. But they allowed an unverified, baseless, absurd dossier to be used against Trump. Wasn't against Twitter rules and guidelines, wasn't against social media algorithms. That was fine. But if you have the president's son, if you have mashed potato brains and his son's emails showing overt pay-to-play schemes, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. Then everybody converges to silence, debate, discussion, discourse, dialogue, all at once, by the way. Then, a couple of years later, the New York Post is vindicated. Their reporting is confirmed by the New York Times. But you have to understand something. The New York Post apparently can't report on a topic detrimental to Democrats unless 2 years later, after November of 2 years ago, the reporting is then confirmed by the New York Times. When the political fallout is circumvented or averted. But if you look and hit subscribe to this channel right now, we're almost at 195 people, 195,000 subs. It's because of you. I'm doing this all myself and with your help, ladies and gentlemen. Word of mouth is the best thing you could do if you enjoy my work. Tell your friends, family, anyone you know who might enjoy my work on this channel and also the stock market crash channel that's below in the pinned comment. Read my article in the Federalist last October, predicting all of this and the devastating stock market crash we're going to see, unfortunately. Bitcoin is going to descend. Everything's going to just absolutely collapse. If you look at the Danchenko indictment, ladies and gentlemen, there's a reference to Company 1. There's a reference to Company reports. Company 1 was the indictment of intelligence officials from you-know-where that claimed to have infiltrated the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Okay? Company 1, by the way, was outsourced by the Democratic Party. So everyone involved in this gigantic, enormous, grandiose hoax is either tied or paid or has something to do with the Democratic Party. But you look, company reports. If you do a word search for company reports in the Igor Danchenko indictment, the subsource of the Steele Dossier. Okay, the Steele Dossier was completely fabricated. It was not true. Nothing in it was true. Literally nothing. Then they say, well, the most important theme was confirmed. That you-know-who wanted Trump. That wasn't confirmed. The intelligence community, all 3 agencies, had a high to moderate confidence level assessment that the Kremlin wanted Trump. Okay? There's no evidence of that. A lot of people agree with that. A lot of people disagree, by the way. The people who disagree, the people who, like John Radcliffe, for example, ODNI chief under Trump, they're not listened to by Democrats. So Clapper is revered because he gave Democrats and media exactly what they want to hear. The same authority, the same individual in the same position of authority, John Radcliffe under Trump, no, they don't like him. So John Radcliffe said, yeah, this was riddled with false information deliberately planted within the Steele Dossier by a direct foreign political rival, a geopolitical rival, okay? Vladimir deliberately planted information within the Steele Dossier. I'll give you his first name, not his last, just because of trying to be as social media or YouTube guideline friendly as possible. But you know what I'm talking about. And so Vlad pumped information into the Steele Dossier, and Mother Jones and BuzzFeed not only published it, it was completely unverified. But they then said, no, we can't touch Hunter's wonderful emails because, they're unverified. But the Steele Dossier is unverified. The president's son's emails are unverified. We don't talk about one topic, but we obsess for 4 years and start investigations with another. And by the way, if you look, and by the way, that those publications, or one of them in particular, has yet another memo. Their track record on the accuracy of these memos is abysmal, but they have yet another memo talking about how, the Kremlin wants to elevate voices in this country that just happen to disagree with Democrats. Isn't that interesting? If you have disagreed with Democrats at any point in time in the past 7 years, you have been either installed or pushing a narrative espoused by, by Russia. Isn't that interesting? But here, company reports, and there's 93 references to company reports. But here, the company reports, the Steele Dossier, because that's what the Steele Dossier is referred to, company reports. It was purchased by a company. None of it was true. Absolutely none of it was true. Company reports played an important role in applications that FBI personnel prepared and submitted to obtain warrants pursuant to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. That's why Kevin Kleinsmith was indicted. And here, in connection with the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation and later investigation by Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III, the FBI relied substantially on company reports, the Steele Dossier, in these FISA applications to assert probable cause that Advisor 1 was a witting agent of the Federation. Okay, Carter Page is suing Comey, and he should win. Carter Page was innocent. The man was completely innocent. He literally told the government of all of his contacts. The government knew of all of his contacts, so he was honest, and the government had all the information to know that he was being honest. And yet they used a document purchased by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party to not only engage in surveillance of Carter Page and everyone else around Trump's administration, but Kevin Kleinsmith actually fabricated information just to get a judge to continue surveillance and the harassment of Carter Page. Now you could say, well, that's not Comey's fault. Well, again, this leads up to Comey and McCabe, Strzok, and then in different agencies, Clapper, Brennan. It's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult. But you're going to have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where each one of the factual background here is going to lead to more indictments. The fact that the Steele Dossier within the Danchenko indictment is so important to the FBI initiating and continuing investigations of Trump. That's 18 U.S. Code 371 right there. These people conspired to defraud the country. They knew it was nonsense. You think Comey is lying under oath if he says he didn't know the dossier was purchased by Clinton? He's the FBI director. He's the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the highest law enforcement agency in the land. And then he says, Comey says, well, I didn't know that the dossier was purchased by... Of course he knew it was obtained or purchased by Clinton and the DNC. Of course he knew that. And then you have more absurd, fake, phony dossiers or memos. On the left, these left-leaning journalists are basically basically Bush Republicans. The Lincoln Project and the far left are now one person. They're the same person. That's why it's a moral imperative to vote for Trump 2 years from now. The Lincoln Project, if you're a morally superior liberal Democrat, you claim to oppose Bush, you did so only because there was an R next to his name. You didn't care. And you can see what's taking place now. The Lincoln Project people, you have these buffoons and imbeciles saying, oh yeah, they're sensible Republicans. Like, no, they're not. They were against marriage equality. They pushed for never-ending counterinsurgency wars and conflicts. And they're still pushing for the end of the world, basically. I mean, with no-fly zones and everything. I mean, they haven't changed. And they've morphed into the Democratic Party now. But if you have the left that's been obsessed with turning everything into a Red Scare, McCarthy-era moment. And this is the left. This is today's liberal Democrats. Could you imagine? Today's liberal Democrats would be Republicans in the 50s with Joseph McCarthy. And they would also be the Bush Republicans of the early 2000s. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Company reports will lead. The reference to company reports within the dossier, the reference to company reports being the Steele Dossier within the Danchenko indictment will lead to numerous indictments of top officials, either at the Bureau or other agencies. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. 18 U.S. Code 371. I talk about that in one of my Federalist articles. Thank you. Hit subscribe right now. I'll be back in about 2